I don't know. The world is crazy, but I don't think the world is any crazier than it's been. I just think that we're more connected than we've ever been, so we get to see things. But oddly enough, people think things are bad now. Like, shit has always been crazy, we just get to see it firsthand,
Yeah, that's one way to think. How are you guys feeling, Jose and Lavon, about what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news, what's top of mind for you guys this week?
She flipped the script, by the way. This is her show. She completely flipped the script. Oh my god!
Conversation.
Oh my
I'm
god!
Looking for the points of connection.
We just got finessed.
The power of the blogger, bro. The power of the blogger. Don't get coronavirus in your heart.
Which do we?
It's the base. LOSO__G.
Deacon, the engineer.
Yeah, I'm Kim Coleman. I graduated from Columbia many moons ago, and I went into corporate America. I worked at Solomon Smith Barney in their consumer research division, and then I was working at Time Inc. in one of their divisions. And then I had my first son, who is now 16. The plan was for me to go back to work after a year off, but I couldn't leave him. So I changed careers and I pivoted and I started making a living as a parenting writer. And it stuck.
Nice.
But what's wild is it was totally different from what I had been doing. I was doing finance and business research before. And so my mindset was like, oh, okay, I want to do this. Let me just do this. And so I just sent out applications and no one hired me because I had no experience. But then I decided to start my own blog, and that's the Mom in the City site. And it's amazing. I had no idea what would come of it, but it changed everything because a year later, a company that who wouldn't even respond to me, they were asking me, what do we have to do to get you? So that's the beauty of not having any gatekeepers online. You can build your own thing and it can serve many different purposes. And so since then, I've made a living online for the last 15 or so years, writing, parenting initially, but then I had a food blog where I was doing recipes and things for major brands. And now it's just an all around lifestyle blog, whatever I'm dealing with at a certain time of life.
So my first time meeting you was on a billboard in Times Square.
Yes, cousin.
How was that to be featured on the market?
Can we get some context, please?
Oh,
this guy's just jumping over the place.
I was walking in Times Square and she was on a billboard. I don't have any more time. You have to ask her that, boy.
Was it Kellogg or it was two different things that I've done something in Times Square? It probably was Kellogg. Okay, so that was a funny story. Not funny, but I was actually working. I was getting paid to cover a Kellogg event because that's part of my job. That was part of my job as a writer. And so I was getting paid to cover the event. And while there, someone asked me a question and I was like, oh, I like that. And somehow it ended up on a commercial. I ended up getting paid $25,000 for saying those 4 words and the billboard.
Wait. So what kind of an event was this, Kellogg's event? Was this a kid cereal stuff?
No, it wasn't a kid cereal. It was I don't know, it was like one of those New Year's resolutions. I resolved to, a special K cereal when beginning of the year, people trying to lose weight, this, that, and the other. And so it was like, what are you looking forward to or whatever? And they gave you words and my word happened to be confident. And I was like, oh, confidence, I like that. And that ended up being on commercials on television, and I ended up on a billboard in Times Square.
So let's ask the hard questions.
Ask me.
Do you actually like Special K?
No comment.
I don't think anybody likes Special K.
No comment. I did eat that box. Okay. Next.
Oh man,
walking-
she doesn't want to mess with her money. I see. Okay.
I know we have viewers who don't live in New York, so they don't know how illustrious Times Square was before the pandemic. But it was like a hustling, bustling, and there's a lot of people walking back and forth. And they had these huge screens, and they played commercials, probably like a cycle of like 6 or 7. And one of the commercials was a Special K New Year's commercial. And I looked up, and I was like, oh. So I texted my mom, like, yo, Mom, I think I just saw her cousin in the book. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, you didn't know? And I was like, okay.
Your mom, she's never phased by anything.
Yeah,
She's like, oh, okay.
So, yeah.
No.
I didn't know you did 2. I thought you only did the Special K one.
Yeah, I did. I was on there for another thing with Panasonic. I was doing a cooking event. So one of my recipes was featured up there. So it wasn't as big. I didn't get paid as much, but it was there.
Cooking event for Panasonic? That's interesting. Like, what do they have
Cooking chips.
Well, Panasonic has a
batteries.
Cooking chips.
They actually have a kitchen division. And so they have different products like amazing super priced blenders and things like that. And so, yeah, they have different divisions, not just electronics.
Wow.
Okay.
Make me quit. I'll quit. Quit and cook. Sorry.
What were some of the challenges from transitioning from, I guess, the corporate grind to basically, working for yourself? I mean, what was that transition like, and what were some of the challenges?
Okay. I loved it. Like, I am fine in an office with people, but I'm totally fine working home alone too. I think one of the biggest challenges, and you probably might experience this, Jose, because you're working at home, is that you don't have the office environments, you don't have the coffee chats and things like that. So it can be lonely if you don't build in some different outside things. So that's one thing. And you also have to be very self-disciplined because there's no one over your shoulder. You do your work or you don't, and you get paid accordingly. So yeah, and I miss that regular paycheck. That's the one beautiful thing about corporate or any kind of boss is that, well, hopefully you get a steady paycheck.
Steady paycheck, yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, working from home does feel like you don't really have those people to like just talk to, like the human interaction. You don't have it anymore.
Yeah,
I enjoy that part.
It's
Like,
just doing your wall.
like before, I used to like to be like in the grind, like in el codo, just being cool and having fun. But I don't know. After a while, I'm just like, I have my work thing. I like to keep that separate. I have my thing I like to do, with my people, and it's just like I found it easier to just keep those lives separate. Because, I don't want my funniness to affect how serious people take me at work. And I have had that problem before where other jobs where I just kind of like joke. Well, yeah, well, it's more, maybe it's just me, but it felt like, I joke around a lot. And some people have said like, try to be a little bit more serious or whatever. Mainly just because, there's that idea of what people think like a leader should look like, how they should act. And it's not that I couldn't get my work done, but, I tend to work in unconventional ways and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think I like that is kind of like working remote. It kind of enforces like systems. So like, not only do I have to, I have to stay on task, but everybody else has to agree and work within how we decide to communicate between one another. So no more like grabbing me randomly and asking me to do some work for you. Send me that ticket or nothing's getting done because I can't see you. I don't see you.
So you send me a ticket. How did you speaking of working remotely, how did you manage throughout the pandemic?
I keep a loose schedule, but it's been a little different because my husband's a teacher and I have 2 sons. And they're all home. And so that is one aspect of working home alone that I miss is that, you have your time away from everyone and then, you join back up. But my life has never been separate because my work is parenting. So my life and my job, they commingle. Who I am is who I am, whether it's at work or whether it's online writing. And that's what I get paid for, to bring my brand personality, because it's not a traditional job. So it's been good in that way. But yes, the pandemic has had its challenges because everyone else is at home too.
And you have 2 kids, man. How school's supposed to be starting up soon? I think I saw you wrote a few blog entries just about everything that's going on. Clearly, none of us are here parents and stuff like that. I didn't know whether you wanted to speak a little bit more about Corona. Get out of here!
I would tell them.
I mean, it's 2020. Who raises their kids anymore? Like really?
We got Zoom. Like,
yeah, exactly. Zoom. What?
No, our kids are in New York public school, and so we've chosen to keep them home fully remote for the school year until they figure things out. We'll let other kids see how it works.
They won't.
They
won't figure it out. They won't.
Yeah, but I mean, we're definitely fortunate that we have that option because I work from home, that they can stay here, and we have the technology and the Wi-Fi and all of those good things. So they'll be staying home, but it's a challenge. I still haven't quite wrapped my head around how I'm going to juggle all the different things because it's going to be a little different from the crisis schooling back in March, because at that point they already knew their classes and they knew their teachers. So the school year was kind of winding down anyway. That's very different from starting off from home with new people and new topics. So we'll see what happens. But that's the great thing about having your own online magazine, blog, whatever, is that you can go talk to the experts and get as much help in getting ready as you can. So like last month, I focused on like organization skills, like getting the home organized and, thinking about different things to organize beforehand. And this month, I'm talking to different doctors and medical professionals about just the emotional aspects of remote schooling, because it does have an effect on kids, not just the kids, but also the adults, and not just parents, but everyone. I mean, all of you have been impacted by, I mean, maybe not you as much, Jose, because you're loving it. But most people, they have been impacted emotionally, socially, different things. So it's good to be able to go straight to the sources and be like, okay, so what do we need to be thinking? How do we need to be getting prepared? What do we need to do? And so that's the gift. Like, that's why I hold on to Mom in the City, because it gives you access.
Yeah, I'm currently doing a study on the brain. Well, not the brain. The brain. I'm doing a study on the brain for younger students on how being on tech for so long impacts their contact with human beings outside of technology, their contact with their parents, and then as they are consistently looking down at their tablets, they're growing an abscess on the top of their spine. Because their body is like, nobody holds tech like this and just use tech. They're like this for so long, for so many hours, and it's pulling a lot of different results, and it's also speaking to a lot of like why socially we're dialing back as a species.
Yeah, and what do you do, Edwin?
Finance.
Oh, you're in finance.
Nothing. I don't do anything.
Huh. So what are you guys thinking about this week going on in the world? LaVon said y'all just kind of flow with whatever's going on.
I mean, oh man. I mean, it just depends, because I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, but I think probably, and I don't know, probably the reason why he said we're probably chilling is because or at least I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for anyone else. But I'm pretty privileged in the sense that I have a job. I'm doing pretty well. And I'm, just the fact that, I have a job insulates me from a lot of what's going on, right? So I don't have to deal with a lot of the bullshit that other people have to deal with. So, but I don't know. The world is crazy, but I don't think the world is any crazier than it's been. I just think that we're more connected than we've ever been, so we get to see things. But oddly enough, people think things are bad now. Like, shit has always been crazy, we just get to see it firsthand,
Yeah, that's one way to think. How are you guys feeling, Jose and Levon, about what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news, what's top of mind for you guys this week?
People are
She
just
flipped the script, by the way. This is her show. She completely flipped the script. Oh my god!
On the conversation.
Oh my
I'm
god!
looking for the points of connection.
We just got finessed.
The power of the blogger, bro. The power of the blogger.
I'm trying to see where I can jump in on the conversation, what the points of connection are. Because I know y'all don't have kids and stuff, so you don't want to be talking about back to school. So what's going on?
That was an uncomfortable laugh. I have a feeling, Fab, you have kids. That was a very uncomfortable laugh. Well, don't worry. We can edit this out. This isn't live, so we can just edit whatever. So you can tell us how many kids you're not raising. And
I'm raising 24 in the classroom. All first graders.
Ooh.
Hey.
I see what you did there.
Like that.
Still,
when I was teaching, I would always say that, like, "Oh, my kids," and people be like, "You have kids?" And I'm like, "No, man, I'm a teacher. But getting back to what you asked, things are kind of like I guess I am worried about schools opening up, though. I am 100% worried about it. My girlfriend works for the DOE, even though she got the accommodation.
Oh.
It's just I feel like that they wasted so many months, man. Like it's just like they're really trying to force something that's like logistically, like from all angles and financially, they should have just planned for 100% remote. And like this shit is like ridiculous. It's nonsense. They didn't pay the teachers for that extra week that they had to work. Now they're I think they pushed the start date like a week in New York, some random nonsense like that, but it's inevitable, man. Like you can't social distance kids, especially in cities. And it's like all these other universities tried this nonsense, and they definitely have more money than we do, than public schools have at their disposal, and they still couldn't figure that shit out, and they ended up closing that. So how are you gonna tell a bunch of little kids that, like, honestly, man, little kids are like, they're little kids. They're just gonna, they just kind of like go with the flow. They don't really think things through. They're gonna be around their friends or, somebody that they think they're cute, and then they're gonna forget about Corona. You know what I mean? So that I'm actually extremely worried about it, because like people are gonna react when teachers are gonna die, and when a kid dies, that's when shit is gonna get serious.
Well,
you're fucked, bro.
I know, I'm dead eyes. It's like they're literally playing with probability, and there's enough people that probability says it's gonna happen at least once. So it's like, how are they gonna deal with that once that happens?
I too am worried about the teachers who have to teach during this pandemic in person. Because these kids are going to swap masks like Pokemon cards, bro. They're going to just start passing it to each other. They're not going
I like your design.
Right. Like, oh, that's a better design. Let's trade.
You got Black Panther.
Right. I'm hoping. Speaking of, I got to send a parent the list of students in my classroom. I'm worried about that. I'm worried about what's going on in Kenosha. At the start of the week, I was worried about how I'm going to talk to my students about Black Panther, but they were stronger about the situation than I was.
No.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on in the world. It's back to back. We have these old Black Lives Matter protests, and then another black man is shot down. And then we have the defund the police, and now they're showcasing all the consistent crimes in New York and trying to make it seem like not make it seem. They're saying that the reason why the crime rate has risen, because it's like up by 47% or something like that, is because of the defunding of the police. Like the police just aren't around, or the manpower isn't there. So that's one thing. My Citizen app is blowing up. The Citizen app is the app that shows you what crime is happening in the area.
Yeah.
It's like every hour on the hour is like shooting this person, stab this person, shooting this person.
Facts.
Oh, why do you have that app?
Yeah, it's consistent. I have it right. Like, look, yeah, it just came up just now. Like, Citizen app back.
It helps me social distance. That's for sure.
There's nowhere not to go, right?
It's like, oh shit, I should stay indoors now.
Yeah, and
it's so crazy, because it's like I'll look at because Jose, he has the app, and I look at his app, and I was like, yo, I was just there like not too long ago, or like I just walked by there, and it's weird. It's like living in a densely populated, particularly like our neighborhood. It's like some shit could go down 2 blocks down. Like it could be shootout. 12 people could die or whatever. You hear sirens, but you could still walk around the corner and get something to eat like nothing's happening. It's like it's the level of detachment it's weird when you think about it, because it's normalized. Living in a densely populated place, like shit is gonna happen because people live on top of each other regardless, right?
Right.
And it's just weird how so much can happen, and maybe 500 feet down, life is going on as normal, as opposed to like anywhere else. If someone's murdered, like people remember that for years. Like that's like, oh, remember when so and so died? So it's just interesting when you think about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've been seeing like pop up a lot lately? Like this is it. This is the end of New York. New York is dead.
Oh yeah, because
Blah blah blah.
everybody moved out. Yeah. Have y'all been to the city lately?
Yeah, I went. I actually took the subway for the first time last week. I went during the weekend.
Was it eerily empty? Because when I drove through, it wasn't much people. Like it was like the lights were off in buildings. The streets weren't immensely populated. But so when you
Did you go during a weekday?
No, I went on a Saturday afternoon. Saturday at 4:00.
How long ago was that?
It was probably about a month ago, a month and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I went out, it looked normal. It looked like a regular sort of
COVID schmovid.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. Maybe it looked like it was more people because all the restaurants are set out in the street, but it just seemed like everyone was chilling. Now the subway itself, there's a lot less people on the subway.
I heard that.
Way less people, but I wasn't out late. I was only out, from early afternoon to like late afternoon. So I don't know how it is at night, but it looked kind of normal to me.
I heard the crazies are on the train. The crazies are heavy on the train now that all people are going.
You said what?
Some of them are driving too.
Oh my! Yo, these drivers are bugging, bro. It's like they just gave everybody a license. Like, yo, you get a license. Car, like they're driving. The road is probably the most dangerous I've ever seen it.
No, I don't think New York City is dead. I think we're hurting just like everywhere else in the country, but New York is life. It's not going to die because of this. We've come back from other tragedies and challenges, and we'll come back from this. That's just the resilience of the New York spirit. So, no, I don't think New York is dead. I'm amazed that you guys know that you have this Citizen app. I'd be so nervous looking at that. I'm telling you, some things, like I want the big picture view of things, but I don't want the local view. I made a mistake earlier this summer when they had like the COVID numbers when COVID was really high, and they had the numbers by zip code, and they had this map with the different zip codes and how many cases were in your area and which were hot spots and which were mild. I made the mistake of looking at that, and I was like, oh no, I'm in a hot spot. And I wasn't surprised because I live in the Forest Hills Rego Park area, and it's a lot of Orthodox, and they gather together. So I wasn't surprised that we had high numbers, but seeing it, I was like, I don't need to know that. No, thank you.
The only thing that makes COVID feel real is just seeing people with masks on.
Yeah.
Because besides that, it's like business as usual. Like at first there was no one out, but now it feels like it's normal. And I feel like I'm because I don't know, I'm not doing the stats, but I feel like I've been seeing a lot more people without the masks on. It's just getting way, way too comfortable.
It's true.
For sure.
It's true. For a while in my neighborhood, everybody was wearing them. Now, of course, everybody has to wear them in the store, so they wear them in there. But on the street, it's now like 50-50. And, I just have to wear my sunshades when I'm walking outside so people can't see. I'm like, I'm judging you. Because I'm trying not to judge you. But I'm like, you're old. You need to have on a mask. There's a lot of elderly people.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. They don't need to wear a mask. They had a good run. It's cool.
They're ready to go.
Okay, it's survival of the fittest.
They're ready to sign out.
So
the one thing I am hoping though is that everybody leaves New York and then the prices and stuff goes down and then we could reclaim New York. Although I don't think that's what's going to happen, but that's like the hope for me. The base COVID storyline, the story I'm writing, man. I just want everybody to leave so I could buy everything.
Well,
I think in the case that people are leaving now, New York real estate, one of the reasons why the prices are still so high and will probably continue to do so is that New York real estate is a very good Swiss bank account, in the sense that a lot of people from all over the world, actually, particularly China, Russia, people who want to launder money from other countries, people who don't live in stable countries but have a fuck ton of money, they buy a whole lot of New York real estate. That's why, like, even all those new buildings in Manhattan, you're like, wow, who's buying these? Who's occupying? Well, not who's buying these, buildings, but who's actually occupying, this $10 million apartment? And the answer is no one. But it's bought. It's owned by some LLC that's owned by an LLC that's owned by some LLC who's owned by somebody in, I don't know, Qatar or something like that. That's super common. That's what keeps these prices so high. So we'll see.
Right now, the rents are going down, but the property values are staying consistent. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I know there's a lot of people fleeing from certain neighborhoods, like the Upper West Side, because they're putting homeless shelters and things in the neighborhoods, and it's starting to bring down the quality of life. And so New York is going to have to figure out that balance, because we definitely need to take care of folks, but we also need to, for people not to feel threatened because things are in their neighborhood that they weren't even aware of. So it's an interesting time for New York, but I'm definitely with you with the back to school craziness. My husband and I, we've had multiple conversations about that. We agree. I used to be on the education council for our district. So I've seen the behind the scenes of many things. I like de Blasio. I like the chancellor, but I don't think that they have a sober estimate of what is really happening. And I think that it'll be interesting to see if they're going to be able to do the things that they're saying they're going to do, like have a nurse in every school when there wasn't even a nurse in every school pre-COVID.
Right.
And these ventilation issues, which is a big deal. Like, okay, yeah, let's open some windows. You ain't going to be able to have those windows open. First of all, a lot of the schools, the windows don't open. And then you can have windows open as your solution through the winter. Those kids are going to get sick. It's just like, good intentions, but you didn't think this through. And so we'll see what happens. But
didn't they like say that they were testing all the schools for ventilation in like a week or some like small number like that? And it's like, y'all can't get anything done in a week. Like, nothing. It's just like, I don't think they can accurately do that.
Right.
In an entire week.
On Friday by school.
I sense nonsense. I sense somebody stayed home and filled in the bubbles.
So there's that, and then just practically, because it's not just a funding issue, it's a space issue in New York. Like I said, I used to be on the council, and we were constantly looking for spaces for new schools and additions to schools, and there weren't spaces available. So it's like, where is all this space going to come from now? There are certain schools that are already at 200% capacity. So those kids, if they're going to go remote, they're only going to be going in one day. So it's like, why even bother? Why not use those resources to strengthen the remote learning and make sure everyone is set up to win in that area? But it's a lot of bureaucracy. It's a lot of politics. They want those federal dollars and all of those things. So we just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, it's very political, and the lives of the kids, teachers. No, I mean, more so the teachers and their parents, right? And or their caretakers. It's like they're like the bargaining chips. They're like the political chips, and it's like, I don't know. It's just really sad. It's really sad because it just shows me very clearly that, you know, people who are supposedly in charge are either A, incompetent, or B, just don't care enough. And
Both.
I think it's a combination of both. I don't know. Well, I'm just saying, if I'm an epidemiologist, I think this is awesome because I'm gonna have a lot of data about, you know, charging who gets what and how many people die. This is dope. Like,
I love how you guys look on the bright side. You for real estate, you for certain professions. Come on, but it's true. What's challenging for some is a opportunity for others. So be it. But hopefully everything will go better than it looks, and we'll see what happens. Because there are no easy answers. Somebody's going to be upset with whatever decision you make, and I know a big part of this push is so that people can go back to work. But in reality, even with these hybrid schedules, jobs are not going to let parents do 2 days in and then 4 days off. It's not going to happen. So, and then if something happens, everybody's going to go all remote anyway if there's an issue. And so I really feel for parents and caregivers who work 9 to 5s or work in standard offices. Like, I don't know how that's going to practically work.
I think even in your explanation, you explain like why going back to school is stupid, right? So let's say the outbreak happens, another outbreak happens. They're going to do another lockdown, and they're going to need to work, you know, teach remote anyway, right? The likelihood that that's going to happen is pretty great considering flu season. We don't know how the coronavirus is going to act in fall and winter. It's just, it would just make sense, right? Like, even, I don't even know, like, I just couldn't justify sending kids back. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know?
You know, this is actually, we mentioned this before, but like, even ACE, because I think the whole thing that makes people feel okay with it is the idea that like kids are not going to be, kids can show symptoms, but maybe not as much. But the thing is that studies have shown that like it doesn't matter whether somebody is asymptomatic or not. Like, it'll still affect their lungs in the same exact way. And like that's specifically in regards to like scarring and things like that can take months to years to heal. And then the immunity only lasts like a few months. And asymptomatic people, like, they lose that immunity in like a fraction of the time as other people that actually show the symptoms. So it's like, I think about not just like that specific detail, but that detail, because it's like, what is going to be the long-term effects on like kids that get this and then maybe get it again and again because they're asymptomatic, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what's right. That's the problem right now in our society. It's very short term in our thinking regarding policy, because with kids and with adults, people are just counting the death numbers. But it's not just those who die, it's the impact that it has on those who live. And no one really knows what that's going to look like, because this is this constantly evolving thing. And so, yeah.
There is actually, we mentioned it on the other show that it's that there's actually about mutations of the virus. So like mutations are a thing, right? That it's just like a fact of like nature when things multiply. But there are specific, so like a lot of mutations that happen really go nowhere because they don't do anything. Mm-hmm. But some mutations can be clearly harmful. And one of the mutations that they worry about are the mutations that increase the amount of spike protein. So the spike protein is those little red things that you see on the picture of the coronavirus, because like an increase in that, and they've shown that in a lab, they've shown this to be the case, that an increase in that does increase the likelihood of infection. And it's like every year we already have to come up with like a new vaccine for the flu, which is just like another coronavirus. So it's just like, you know, I think people have to take that into consideration. Like, I don't think we're going to get out of this until we have a vaccine. And even when we get a vaccine, if this being a coronavirus, I think we should expect it to be like the flu. and other viruses that just reemerge every year.
Right. And then there's the whole question of, once there is a vaccine, are people going to take it? Because there's so much mistrust in medicine and in government. So I will be doing like the whole school situation. You first.
Yeah, well, man, government employees are going to have to take that first. So we'll see through them first.
Well, if it comes from Russia, I'm not
taking it. When Trump sent his kid back to school, I'm going to take the vaccine when your kids take the vaccine. Oh, what were you saying?
I'm saying if it comes from Russia, I'm not taking it, because they allegedly have Sputnik 5, which is their coronavirus vaccine. And it's telling that, people in their health, in the Russian health ministry, are like resigning, which is crazy, because like that's a country where you'll speak up, that could, you can get disappeared real quick. So that's very telling. Everyone's just in a rush, but I think if we were like other countries, like I was talking to our friend Nick, he's from South Korea, and they're back to normal life, right? And initially, they were one of the worst off when everything first kicked off in the earlier in the year. But one reason why they dealt with it is because almost immediately, social distancing, masks are already a part of the culture. So if you're already sick, you're expected to wear a mask, right? It's almost full compliance. They're taking temperatures. They're like, even the very base measures that Fauci or whomever will tell you to do, they did consistently. And now, like, a big outbreak for them, there was like a big outbreak maybe a few weeks ago. A big outbreak for them is like 5 or 10 people catching it, right? Like, that's like a big deal. But, I think it's just the culture over here. You have a percentage of people who think that anything the government tells you or even suggests is trampling on your rights. Like, that's a very sort of uniquely American thing. And then you have implement things, right? So you have the federal government, you have the state government, you have counties, you have city, and whatever municipality weirdness you just happen to be in, right? So you have at least 4 levels of government coming up with a solution to a problem, and no one knows what they're doing, and everyone disagrees. It's just like this weird sort of, I can't even say decentralized, because it's centralized, but it's like different centers are coming up with like
different plans.
Are supposed to attack this problem with little to no coordination. It's a shit show. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like you said, our freedom can be our biggest strength, but it can also be our biggest weakness. Because like you said, in these Asian countries, mask wearing when you're sick or whatever, it's part of the culture because it's a consideration. When in America, this makes me uncomfortable, so I don't want to do it.
Take it off, yeah.
And then you have leadership at the very top who's like, oh, it's not that bad. And so it has become politicized. And so instead of becoming a health issue, it becomes a political issue and a human rights issue, when that is ridiculous.
It's just the flu, bro.
Mm-hmm.
First it wasn't a thing, then it's just the flu, bro. Like, everyone's, oh yeah, it's just the flu, bro. And then now, they're forced to recognize it. But now that some places are, I guess the curve is going down in some places. Now all of a sudden it's not a thing anymore. It's crazy. It's funny. It's funny how New York, we were the worst off. Everyone's talking all this shit. We were the worst off. And then now, look, the Northeast is like the safest place to be in the country, because for all of our faults, right? Like, we addressed it late, but at least we addressed it, somewhat, right? Mm-hmm. And then now the Midwest, the South is dealing with, all, the same issues we were dealing with, except you have a populace that's even less cooperative. So they're going to suffer for a long time, and it's unfortunate, but it's like, I don't even know. Yeah. It's weird. Like, some people just want to like punch themselves in the face. I don't get it.
Yeah, tables turn. Tables turn, just like in the beginning, a few years ago, we wanted to keep people out of America. And now many countries, Americans can't get in because we messed up with this coronavirus so badly.
Yeah, you gotta do mad testing to get into to even,
Yeah, there are certain countries they're like, no, you can't come in. I know friends who are waiting to travel, but they can't go yet because they're American.
Like, I need documentation. I need documents saying that you don't have it. Go get tested before you come over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was COVID in Kenosha. How are you feeling about that, Levon? Now that the president has gone there, do you think that was beneficial or harmful?
I didn't even read up on I haven't touched on the Kenosha stuff since I started working.
Have you seen the videos?
Last video I saw was the white kid walking around with the AR, the 17-year-old white kid, and then the cops let him go. That was the last video I saw.
Yeah, I don't watch videos because they make me ragey. Reading it is enough. Things stick in my head. I can't even watch shows like CSI and stuff. I'm like, things stick in my head forever. So yeah, I don't watch it, but I read up on it from right-leaning media and left-leaning to see what's the constants, to see what is real. Yeah. It's just saddening how people have gone through mental gymnastics to excuse the young man who whatever his last name is, who killed two people.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yes, who killed two people and then hurt a third one. I think the third one lost their arm.
Yeah.
But
I think if you watch the video, I'm not saying you should watch the video, but I came away with the same idea just by reading it. I just thought it was just another shooting, alt-right, whatever. But then I watched the video, and I watched it from several different angles. And now I'm really not sure what to think about it, to be honest. It's because especially coming from like the George Floyd thing, I'm primed to automatically assume that this dude just came to fucking to fuck shit up. Like I was trying to give this guy no sort of leeway, no sort of anything. But it's hard because if you watch the video, like the people are chasing him, right? People are chasing him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's clearly retreating. And it seems it's weird because you read what right-wing media, they say, okay, it's purely self-defense. You read left-wing media, you're like, oh yeah, this is an alt-right guy. But from what I've read, there's no indication that this person is associated with alt-right anything. Like he was quoted talking about Black Lives Matter, things like that. Not that that means anything, but people are saying that this is either self-defense or like sort of a alt-right sort of attack. And I'm not clear on what's actually going on. Like having watched the video and having read everything without seeing what happened before the video was rolling, I really can't make a judgment. Like that's just my opinion.
No, that's good to know. And for me, that isn't even the issue. The issue more so is that he came from another state and is walking around with an assault rifle and was able to go home and sleep in his bed that night, even after he had done what he had done, whether it was justified or not. And when in reality, we know if the races were reversed, he wouldn't have made it home, period. Black kids, 17-year-olds can't be driven across state and walk around with assault rifles and go home in peace. And so for me, like you said, it's good that you watch the video so you can see the nuances. But the issue is people who are defending him are saying things like, well, they were breaking the law. They broke curfew. But he was out there also. So he was also breaking curfew.
Everyone was breaking curfew.
So my whole thing is, we're just at a point in society where people will look for all the negatives that they can find about a Black victim and all the positive that they can find about a white assailant. And I just think that in and of itself is what's problematic. And I think he should have his day in court and all of those things. But I think the immediate reaction before video, before all this is, and And part of it is because he was front and center at a Trump rally. And so that is going to make people think that he is more to the right. But no one deserves to get chased down. But also, no one needs to come cross state lines with an assault rifle. And he's 17. It's not even legal. And I'm just like, if that was a Black mama bringing her Black child across state lines and bringing him this story, we all know how this would have ended. Mm-hmm. So to me, that in and of itself is the injustice of it all. And the fact that Jacob Flake is even being mentioned when the president goes to visit and it's all just about law and order. And I think because
law and order.
Yeah.
I mean, that's weird. He wasn't even a cop. That's the thing. Like no one.
This is the thing. Historically, okay, I'm going on my my Black history.
Go for it.
Historically, police officers have enabled white vigilantes to wreak havoc. Even if you go back to the Tulsa massacre, many of the people who were killed their perpetrators were armed by police officers. And so there is a history in that. And the fact that the officers were thanking him for his service, I'm like, that's a problem. Those things are problematic. Outside of where the final guilt lies, it's a problem. The justice system is problematic. And I love the good cops. I appreciate them. I respect them. I have friends that are great cops. We pray for them. We wish them well. But there has to be a retraining because the system was never created to protect and serve all people. It was put in place to keep certain groups of people in order. And we still see the residues of that today.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox.
No, that makes sense. I think one thing that's interesting is that they do take certain people, like, so for example, certain things that happen, I think the media is willing to go into nuance about a character. Like, I'm trying to remember in particular, but it was the guy who like shot up the movie theater, like the dude that had like the Joker hair, and he shot up a movie theater and killed a bunch of people. And all the media stories are talking about, you know, his psychology is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they humanized him in a certain way. It's like, oh yeah, where did we go wrong with this guy? Like, where did society go wrong? And then as opposed, you know, you just go on the evening news. Oh yeah, this guy robbed a liquor store, or this guy was in a gang shooting. And then there's no exploration as to why he might have done that, or his history, or his mental health history, right?
The worst,
you know,
worst picture.
So that is an interesting contrast.
Right. And I believe in grace for everybody, but there can't be grace without truth. Like, let's just be honest, where we're at as a society. It's not one side is all good and one side is all bad, but let's get some honesty. And then if the good cops and stuff will come out more consistently when cops do wrong, then we could move forward. Because the thing is, okay, even if Flake was doing something wrong, shoot him in the leg. You don't got to shoot somebody 7 times. And so there is nuance. No one's saying don't do your job, but why is the inclination to shoot to kill or to do major bodily harm when it's a brown or Black body? And I think a lot of that is in the training, and it needs to change, period. Oh my goodness, it's almost 7:30. I gotta go.
Oh, you gotta go?
Yes, I got another call in a minute.
Okay, well, plug. I mean, do you have any parting words? Do you want to like plug everything? Like plug your stuff?
No, I just wanted to encourage you guys to keep on doing your thing. You just never know where it's going to end. mominthecity.com. If any of your listeners are parents or who have kids in school, it's great. But yeah, I'm proud of you guys. Young kings, keep it up. I just feel like everybody should have their own voice. You know, everyone should have an opportunity to say
most people.
Well, we want to know what those other people are thinking too. lack of knowledge is what gets us in trouble. But okay, I agree with you.
No. I actually agree with you. I was just being silly. I agree.
All right. So keep up the great work.